everybody, welcome to Stonx Music. My name is Ollie and today we're going to be having a look at delay in this deep dive episode. Let's go! Right, back once again with the Ableton manual, D4 damage your power to the people. Today we are looking at delay, so let's jump in. The delay provides two independent delay lines, one for each channel, left and right. To refer delay time to the song tempo, activate the sync switch, which allows using the delay time beat division chooser. The numbered switches represent time delay in 16th notes. For example, selecting 4 delays the signal by 4 16th notes, which equates to 1 beat, a quarter note of delay. If the sync switch is off, the delay time reverts to milliseconds. In this case, to edit the delay time, click and drag up the delay time knob. With stereo link engaged, the left channel settings are applied to the right channel, and changing either channel's sync switch or delay time settings will apply the changes to both sides. The feedback parameter defines how much of each channel's output signal feeds back into the delay line's inputs. Internally, there are 2 independent feedback loops, so a signal on the left channel does not feed back into the right channel and vice versa. The unlimited button, or the infinity button, will cause the delay to endlessly cycle the audio which is in its buffer at the moment that the button is pressed, ignoring any new input until freeze is disabled. The delay is preceded by a bandpass filter that can be toggled on and off with a switch and controlled with an XY controller. To define the filter bandwidth, click and drag on the vertical axis. To set the position of the frequency band, click and drag on the horizontal axis. Filter frequency and delay time can be modulated by an LFO, making it possible to achieve a range of sounds from light chorus-like effects through to heavy, contorted noise. We like it. The rate slider sets the frequency of the modulation oscillator in Hertz. The filter slider adjusts the amount of modulation that is applied to the filter, and the time slider adjusts the amount of modulation that is applied to the delay time. Changing the delay time while delay is processing audio can cause abrupt changes in the sound of the delayed signal. You can choose between 3 delay transition modes. Repitch causes a pitch variation when changing the delay time, similar to the behaviour of old tape delay units. Repitch mode is the default option. Fade creates a crossfade between the old and new delay times. This sounds a bit similar to time stretching if the delay time is gradually changed. Jump immediately jumps to a new delay time. Note that this will cause an audible click if the delay time is changed whilst delays are sounding. Tip: try to use the time slider to explore the effect of time modulation on the different transition modes. When the ping pong switch is activated, the signal jumps from left to the right output. The dry-wet control adjusts the balance between the processed and dry signals. Set it to 100% when using delay in a return track. The dry-wet parameters context menu lets you toggle equal loudness. When enabled, a 50-50 mix will sound equally loud for most signals. Sets saved in a version of Live older than 10.1 that used simple delay or ping-pong delay devices will show an upgrade button in the title bar of each instance of delay when loading the set. Upgrading the device will preserve the previously used device's free delay time range and will only affect the sound of the set or the preset if the free delay time parameter was either mapped to a macro control or to a Max for Live device. Delay tips. Glitch effect. Enable the stereo link switch and set the delay time to around 400-500 milliseconds. Dial the feedback to 80% or above. Disable the bandpass filter, adjust the filter slider to 0% and set the time slider to 100%. Select the fade transition mode and make sure ping pong is disabled. Set the dry wet control to 80% or above. Chorus effect. Disable the stereo link switch, set the left channel's delay time to 12 milliseconds and adjust the right channel's delay time to 17 milliseconds. Dial the feedback to 60%, enable the bandpass filter and set the filter frequency to 750 Hz. Adjust the width slider to 6.5, set the rate slider to 5 Hz, bring the filter slider to 10% and dial the time slider to 12%. Select the repitch transition mode and enable the ping pong switch. So we'll have a go at those little tips, as well as a few other things that I do in Ableton. So let's jump in. So here we are back in Ableton. I've started off just with a operator, and I've created a kind of big old FME nasty noise. A lot of big old resonance in there. And we've got the two bits that it said at the end of the manual. So here we've got our glitch effect, and here we've got our chorus effect. So let's have a little listen and see what it sounds like on its own. And then with our glitch effect. So you can hear a lot of that high end kind of added in. If I go pure to our wet, you can hear just what's being added. Compared to with it off. So what's actually happening here, I'll grab my span so we can have a look. But there's this incredibly short delay time. And because of that, we're getting this, the first little bit of this audio is being repeated again and again and again, really high feedback, so it's feeding back into itself. And this is a really nice one for getting the kind of that metallic-y sound, that kind of raspy sound to it. So have a quick look with it off. And we can see a lot, well, it's a big old raspy sound anyway. And we'll turn it off and have a look at the difference. So that's a much screechier, high-end note. We haven't got much of our sub here, so what I would do is put that back in separately. If you've watched any of my other videos, I tend to treat basses as a mid bass, which is essentially all of this high-end noise, and the sub bass as a separate. Grab our sub bass in as well. We can arm both of these. Then we've got. That's the octave I want for that. And then with the other one. So I could probably knock this down. Let's go down an octave, minus 36. Let's have a look now with our span. So that's a real nice, I'll just turn this off and just listen to the sound. So again, with this off and on. You see with that really short delay time, it's really adding a lot of those crispy harmonics to it. So the next thing we can do is actually modulate this timing here. So let's have a little listen. So you can hear a lot of those resonant frequencies are just created by the length of time that this delay is being re-triggered. And if we were to mess around with our pitch values up here, repitch or jump mode, let's have a quick listen. And you can see with the frequencies here, that covers a lot more of the spectrum, whereas when it's on fade mode, we have these much shorter little sections of frequency that are popping up. Look again. You see there's these very defined frequencies, whereas on repitch mode, it gives us a bit of a blur. So it can be really good for these transitional effects again. It's just I'm a big fan of just washing things out over time. So let's say if we had this where it was originally, Control Z my way back, there we go. And then we could duplicate this. So this one would be our glitch effect, and this could be a transitional washout. So what I'd be tempted to do with this one is we'd have our noise coming through, and then we could have something else here on repitch mode and automate the dry wet here. And we could also be automating the delay here. So let's write a little something. If any of you guys have watched my videos before, I do a lot of single note reprocessing. So in this case, I'd grab a G. It's my favourite note. Where are we? Drag that out and knock it down. Probably there. And we'll have this slowly wash out, show automation. Have that wash out over the course of the sound. And then we'll also have the time going up over the sound as well. So we start with this, we get, and that might be a bit much, a bit heavy on the washout here, so let's bring it down. And that might do that a little late actually. I'd have it doing it the whole way, so it's just movement the whole time. They can probably, so let's turn the loop mode off and see what happens after this. And that's the kind of bits I'm really always interested in. Let's resample this. Go Control T, new audio track, resample mode, record that one. So if we come back to this section here, we can cut that out and let's have a little look at what we've got here. It's an interesting waveform. Just a lot of crunchy bumpers. And that's the kind of thing that I'd be resampling, so that we control, I'll call that G aftermath bassy. And that'd be great being thrown into a wavetable or some such from there. And then our initial sound here is, move this one across. It's got a kind of nice sweepy filter across it. And I'd say this this kind of glitch effect is a really nice way of adding those extra resonant frequencies if you're kind of that morphing bass line feel. So you might have something that's I kind of have a dubsteppy thing or something. We got yeah, crazy kind of noises you can get from that. Moving over here to the chorus effect, it's a much kind of subtler sound, but it's still a really nice way of using this delay. So have a listen. And it's almost the same thing. It's this kind of quick slap back. It's just not quite as quick. So let's have a listen. With it off. And then spread. And if you play that with our sub bass. So we can have a look at the different modes here, but it doesn't really make much of a difference unless you're automating and changing the delay times. So if we have a quick look, we got that's on repitch, fade, and jump. The time these really come in is when you start moving around the delay times. If we go to repitch again, if we go into fade mode, if we go to jump, so when you're just playing one single note, or if you're playing multiple MIDI notes but leaving the delay time as it is, not really going to make much of a difference what one these are on. It's when you start automating and changing the delay times themselves that you're going to notice more of a difference. So that's how I'd go about using beefing up my big dirty basses with delays, and that's something I do a lot with these guys. The other thing that I tend to do is just wash out the end of sections. So let me grab something quick. What do we have? So let's imagine we're coming to the end of a bar here, and we've got kind of like this. And we grab our delay, going to copy and paste it onto here. turn it on, and first of all I kind of figure out what I want, where I want. Let's say fours, or let's go to quarters. So that obviously sounded too much when it's all going on, but if we take our dry wet down and just start automating that up at the end of the bar, if this was the end of the drop and we're going into a break section, for instance, that's a really nice way. So if that was kind of coming to the end of your bar and this was your break or transitioning into your next section, it's a really nice way to just help ease the transition. And other things we could do here, we could take the feedback up over time so it could go into it more. And that's now going to continue with a really high feedback like that. It's going to continue for a long time, and we could take that and then automate the dry wet down. So if it was a 4 bar, we could take that down like that, so it sounds something like this. Or we could leave the dry wet as it was up there, and just have the feedback set at an amount where it decays where we like it. So I want it a little bit longer than that, just to get to the end of these 4 bars. Let's try 60. That's just about. But like I say, I find it much easier to crank your feedback up and just automate your dry wet. So that's one way we could do it. The other thing that's really nice is creating these kind of evolving paddy lines. So let me come here and I'll just draw a bit of MIDI quick. We'll grab instruments, we'll grab our operator again, and I just want a nice little kind of plonky sound, and we'll go for a triangle again. So Control L to loop this section. Let's just get something. We'll go for our G. It's kind of a simple little line. There's nothing too interesting going on. And then we add our delay on, set ping pong mode, and we can set our division. So at the moment we're on quarter notes. So if we set this to 1/8 notes, it's going to be playing twice for every 1 note we have. So let's have a little listen. So that gives us a good bit of atmosphere on top of what we have. Ping pong delay is a nice one for this because it kind of goes left, right, left, right. We could also unlink the sync, and that would allow us to have different ones. We could go for 3 on one and 5 on the other. Let's have a listen. And setting the modulation time, you can kind of get some good other effects here. Turn this to repitch. That's sounding a bit too dissonant there, so let's change it to fade mode. So you can get a good bit of ambience and a good bit of atmosphere out of what would otherwise be some quite simple little notes and lines. So that's one of the other things I like to do with it. And again, this can be modulated up. So you could start here, if we duplicate this a few times, D, 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 come back, loop the whole lot. We could have the dry wet coming up over time. So let me dinka there. bring this up over the time so we could have, and then maybe you want to be looping it on that end section, right? So it comes in. And in a songs context, you probably want this to stop at like 50%, so you end up with the delay and your original sound. And then we could also do other things like be automating the sound itself, so that you kind of get these nice morphing changes over time. I think for me personally, one of the things I bang on about whenever I'm taking feedback from other people's tracks and stuff like that, I think change over time is one of the most important things, you know. It's not about having the most complex melodies and the most complex chord structures. Really just change over time, I think, is what keeps your listeners engaged. And things like having your transitions, so they not just feel like section after section after section. That's what I personally think one of the good things about delay is. So we've got a couple of uses for it there. Creating these kind of slapbacky sounds, using it as a chorus, getting some kind of cool glitch effects. I mean, if you want to push it to the absolute madness, we can. As always, if we were to take, for instance, this one here, bring it over here and just automate the absolute hell out of this. Let me Control D this a few times. Control J to stick it all together, loop it, and let's have that to record. We record in MIDI, so let's play this quickly and I'll record in. I should probably hit a MIDI note too, shouldn't I? And then we're on fade mode, so I won't do too much. Let's chuck that on repitch mode. Oh. We still got all of this here, so let's have a listen and knock that down. Crazy sounds, but for me, it's kind of what it's all about. Breaking stuff and trying to find what's underneath it all, you know. Of course, if you just wanted to use delay for what its intended purpose is and giving you these kind of delay sounds, that's cool as well. I just really like breaking stuff. So for me, it's kind of getting these. I used to use simple delay a lot, but they've put it all together now in this one delay. So for me, I used to always get simple delay, put it on really slow delays and give you that kind of kring noise. So it's a nice one to automate this really small delay time. You get this. And again, that's a nice one to automate the dry wet on, so you could have it go. You can hear it kind of just like the FM, it evolves it over time. So you could, in fact, here get Max for Live, get a envelope follower audio, envelope follower, and attach that to our dry wet, and then we could have. We want that to do more, so we want the gain. I want it to fall a bit quicker. Yeah, depending how you want to do it, depending whether you like to work in single notes and then resample them. But there's some great things you can do with delay. These are only a few of them. Obviously, like I keep saying, you can do your nice and easy version of just kind of using it for its intended purpose. Some nice ping pong delay, building up some nice atmosphere. to getting these really short decay times and adding that kind of slapback robot metallic-y sounds to your sounds. Alright guys, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Deep Dive. Hopefully you learnt a thing or two about delay. As always, project files are in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff. We also run a production Discord over at chat.stonx.co.uk. So if you've got any questions, hop over there and you can always talk to us. So thanks again for tuning in and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye!